It's recording. All right, I think we'll start here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's National Geographic Learning Asia's Best Practice webinar, Ready, Snap, Talk, engaging students with authentic images, presented by our very special guest presenter, Ross Thornburg. I'll give a little bit introduction to you. I think, it's for our Asia webinar. It's the first time for Ross to give us a presentation, give us a training. Ross is a teacher trainer and materials writer based in Shanghai, China. He started teaching young learners in 2006. Since then, Ross has trained over 10,000 teachers and created materials used by over 100,000 students. Ross is also a keen researcher and has published research articles on teacher development, task-based learning, and young learners. He is the host of the TEFL Training Institute podcast also. So now, without further ado, I'm handing over to Ross.
Thanks very much, Kitty. Can you hear me okay? Loud and clear. Okay, wonderful. So thanks, Kitty, for the lovely introduction, and everyone else, good morning. Nice to meet you all. So today we're looking at using photos to get students talking. So let's, without any further ado, let's get started. Oh, now that I've said that, actually, I'm going to ask you all a quick question. So we have a poll here. It'd be wonderful if you could all click on the poll box and let us know really quickly, what age group of students do you teach? And then I can kind of adapt a little bit what I'm saying based on your answers. Okay, so it seems most of you are teaching primary school students, young learners, 6 to 12. And then we've got a few of you teaching teens, about a third, about a quarter teaching university students or adults, and also a few of you teaching very young learners. Okay, so that's great. We've got a really nice mix. I think I've taught all these age groups, and I'm fairly confident that most of the activities that we look at today can be used by all these different age groups. So we can comment on that as we go through. Okay, so before we sort of get into the topic, here's a quick get to know each other about me, embarrassingly. So I've got 4 sentences here. What I want you guys to do is read the sentences. These are all about me. So the first, this is 3 truths and a lie. I'm sure you've played this with your students before. So I'll read the 4 sentences about me. I just want you to guess which of these sentences is not true about me. Okay, so the first one is, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. The second one is, I've lived in Asia for almost 20 years. The third one is, I ran a marathon last year. And the fourth one is, I play the guitar. So first interaction of today, do you want to guess in the chat box which sentence do you think is the lie? Just type a number, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, so let's see, Andrew there doesn't think I play the guitar. Billy and Kitty think I didn't run a marathon last year. I'm disappointed more people didn't say I've not lived in Asia for so long. I was hoping you'd say you look too young, but no one said that. So actually, the correct answer to this, the lie, is number 3. So well done to all of you who guessed that. So I have run a marathon before, but not last year. I am a vegetarian. Well, I eat fish, but I don't eat other kinds of meat. I've lived in Asia for 17 years. Oh, sorry, this is my 17th year in Asia. So I guess that's almost 20 years. And I do play the guitar, although maybe I'm not very good. Okay, so thanks for taking part. We'll do lots more interaction in today's session. So before I tell you about the different activities that we're going to do, I wanted to start off by asking or talking for a minute about why it's useful to use photos in classes. So what we're talking about today, right? So here's some of my ideas. Feel free to add your own in the chat about why maybe you use photos as well, if you like. But here's some reasons that I think photos are a fantastic resource for the class. The first one is that photos are differentiated. I think photos are great for teaching groups of mixed ability students because students can use their own language to describe them, right? So if students have got lots of high-level language and they're more advanced, then they can use more complex language to describe something. And if students are lower level, well, they can just use whatever single words perhaps that they have to describe something. So I think photos are great for mixed ability classes. Much better, I think, than reading texts, because in a reading text, obviously, if you don't know some of the words, you can't understand it. But that's not the case with a photo, right? You don't need any language to understand a photo. You just need a little bit of language to talk about it. Okay, sorry, I'm really bad with reading names. Induleka says, good for icebreakers too. Yes, I think photos are a really nice sort of break from the normal, right? Something a bit different. My second point here is they're engaging, right? So I've obviously picked today mainly photos from National Geographic because National Geographic have so many wonderful pictures, right? So I think they can be really engaging. And I also think they're a nice change from other texts, right? I did a research project at the beginning of 2022, asking a lot of teachers about their biggest challenges. And a lot of teachers said teaching reading was their biggest challenge. They have to teach reading all the time. Every class has a reading text. Well, I think photos can be a nice change, a nice break from reading texts. Okay, it's also really easy to take photos now, very different from when I was growing up, when you had to get your photos developed and everything. Obviously now most of us have got phones, really easy to take photos, very convenient usually to show them to students if you've got a big projector in your classroom or a TV screen, which I would guess a lot of you do. It's pretty convenient to show them to students as well, much more convenient than before. I also think that students can personalize classes by bringing in their own photos. So we'll do a bunch of activities today, and I'll show you these activities using photos either that I've taken or photos from our world. But if you do these activities with your own students, you can get them to even bring in their own photos. And I think that helps to personalize classes. Okay, and as I also said before, another great reason is that the National Geographic Learning coursebooks have so many fantastic images. I was really spoilt for choice when preparing this webinar for which pictures to choose. Okay, so I wanted to ask you all a few questions. So what about you? Just 3 questions here. It'd be wonderful if you could pick one of these and answer them. First question is, do you use photos in class? Do you have any favorite activities for using photos already? And are there any challenges that you have in using photos in class? Maybe you can take a second and type an answer in the chat box. Great, so Richard and Dina both use photos in the class, great. Dina, could you change your settings, and Junko as well, could you change your settings so that everyone can see them? At the moment, just the hosts and panelists can see them. Okay, so Junko says a describing game. Great, we'll have some describing games later today for sure. And Glenn says describe what you can see. Yeah, I like doing describing activities as well. I sometimes find with describing activities that the challenge is getting students to listen to each other. So I'll show you some ways to solve that problem later. Right, Yumi says, I've not used photos, but I'm really interested in it. Great. We'll make sure that we've got some for that. Keith has got a memory game. Yeah, that's great. I also think memory games are a great use of photos. I think Daniel Willingham wrote this, that memory is the residue of thought. So the more you can get students to think and concentrate and remember in class, the more they will remember after class. Okay, so lovely to hear all your ideas there. We'll maybe come back to some of these later. Very quickly, here's a outline of the activities that we're going to do today. So really today, it's just going to be me pretending to be the teacher and you all pretending to be the students. And we're going to do 5 activities. First activity is called Spot the Difference. I don't know if you've played this before, but this is a way to get students to describe objects. You can change what they're describing depending on what you want to get the student, what language you want the students to practice. We'll do what I call a blind Venn diagram. I'm sure you're all familiar with a Venn diagram. We've got 2 circles that go over each other to compare and contrast something. We'll use a Venn diagram to compare 2 photos and contrast them. We'll do an activity called 5 sentences and 2 lies, a little bit like my 3 truths and a lie from the beginning. But instead of doing 3 truths and a lie about me, we're going to do something like that about some photos. We'll do an activity called matching photo pairs, where we'll get you to describe lots of photos in a short period of time to try and work on fluency. And finally, my favorite activity, odd photo out, which is all about describing photos and speculating, guessing what's going on. So, excuse me, a nice activity for critical thinking. So those are the activities that we're going to do today. For each, I'll give you a brief explanation of how to do it, and then we'll do the activity together, and then we'll have a little debrief afterwards. Okay, so let's start off with spot the difference. So spot the difference, very simple. You need to find some photos that are similar but have a few differences in them. Okay, so this is these photos I'll show you in a minute are the only ones taken by me. They're not from National Geographic Learning, but it's pretty easy to do. You could just take some photos of, for example, things in your living room and then move some things around, take another photo, and now you have 2 photos with some differences in them. And then in class, you put students in pairs and you make sure that one student can see one photo, one student can see the other photo, and you get students to describe their images. So students talk about their photo and make sure that they don't look at what their partner has in their photo. Okay, so you have to rely on the descriptions, and then students try to listen for differences. And the outcomes, obviously, students there are describing, but most importantly, they're also listening to each other. Okay, so here we go. Let's do this together. So in a second, I'm going to show you a photo. I have got a similar photo here on my phone. I'm going to describe my photo. I want you to listen to my description and then tell me what are some differences between my photo and your photo. So basically in this activity, I'm student A, you're student B. I'll describe my photo, you look at your photo and then tell me the differences. Okay, hopefully you can see that photo of my kitchen. So here we go, I'll describe my photo. So this is a kitchen. There's a white counter or a white table. And on the table, there is a yellow cup with some coffee in it. That's on the bottom left of the photo. And on the right, there's a red tin, which says coffee in it. Behind the red tin, there's, I think it's a toaster, and there's a lid on the toaster, and also a pair of, I don't know, like tongs or something for picking things up. Behind that, there's some plugs. Looks like there's a chopping board drying there up against the wall. And in the top right of the picture, there's a knife hanging on the wall. Okay, so below the knife, I've got 2 kettles. There's a red kettle I think it's from making coffee. And that one, the light, there's a little red light on that, and the handle is facing us. And to the right of that, there's a glass kettle. So it's white, made of glass. There's a blue light on it, and it looks like the water is boiling in my kettle. Okay, so I'll describe some of those again. I've got a yellow coffee cup at the bottom left with some coffee in it. On the right, I've got a coffee container that's red. Behind that, on the right, there's a toaster with a lid. Next to the toaster, there's a white kettle with boiling water in it. On the left of that, there is a coffee machine with a red light on. And then up at the top of the picture, there is a knife hanging up on the wall. Okay, so let's see what some of you think are the differences between your photo and my photo. So let's see. Kitty says that your yellow cup is empty and you don't have a knife, says Glenn. Okay. Jum Jum says, or Jujum says there's nothing in the yellow cup. Albie says you don't have a light, sorry, you don't have a knife. Okay, Indy, is it? Sorry, I think you told me how to say your name earlier. Said that you don't have a blue light on your kettle. Okay, and your water, Kitty says, in the kettle isn't boiling. All right, and what else have you said here? Someone says, am I blind or is the water not boiling? Hard to say, yes. No coffee in the yellow cup, says Billy. Hi-ha says, no knife, no boiling water. Water's not boiling, no cup, no knife. Okay, so I think you've got about 3 or 4 differences there. Let me show you my photo. That's the other photo. Okay, so now we can notice all the differences in here. I think you noticed the coffee missing in the coffee cup. Well done. You noticed the water was not boiling in yours, but it was boiling in mine, and you can see the blue light here. And I think most of you also noticed that you were missing a knife up here that I had. But a few things I don't think you noticed was the coffee writing on this pot over here. I think we didn't notice this red light over here, and also didn't notice the lid on the toaster was missing. Okay, so a few small differences there. Okay, so that was spot the difference. Obviously, if this was a real class, then you would be talking as well as me, but just because we're online, it's only me doing the talking. All right, so let's reflect on that activity. This activity, I think, is great for getting students to practice both speaking and listening. It's a nice way to get students to ask each other questions as well if they're not sure what's going on. I think it's a really good activity as well for getting everyone in the class involved at the same time. I know a lot of the young learner classes that I observe as a teacher trainer, whenever there's bad behavior from students, it's usually because some students are sitting around doing nothing, but this activity makes sure that everyone is doing something, right? Even if you're listening. I think it's also a good activity for differentiation. You could put stronger students together in pairs and weaker students together, or you can even have stronger students and weaker students together, and the stronger students might be able to help the weaker students for this one. And then to adapt this for different levels, you can obviously change the photos, right? So here we had this photo of my kitchen. So nice for practicing kitchen vocabulary. But if you wanted to make this really simple, you could just have some pictures of, for example, different animals, right? I have a dog. Do you have a dog? Yes or no? I have a cat. Do you have a cat? Yes or no? I have 2 horses. I have 1 horse. Okay, so it doesn't even have to be a real photo, it just has to be 2 images. So you can make it easier. And also, I noticed some of you are teaching higher level students, some of you even teaching university students. You can even make it more abstract or more difficult. So one of my favorite ways of changing this and taking suitable images for Spot the Difference is to take a photo in one part of the city during summer and then to come back to the same part of the city and take a photo again in winter. And obviously there might be different cars on the street. People might be wearing different clothes. If there's a river in the photo, the level of water might be different. Maybe it's raining, maybe one photo's in the light, one photo's at night. So you can also adapt your images for the age and the level of the students. Okay, so that was Spot the Difference. Hope you enjoyed that. Next activity we're going to do is called Blind Venn Diagram. All right, so for this activity, you need to find two photos and they need to be kind of similar, or they need to have some things that are similar about them. And you also need some blank paper as well, or you can make a Venn diagram template for your students. And in class, you get students to work in groups of 3. So one student is writing the Venn diagram. One student is looking at photo number 1, and another student is looking at photo number 2. And those two students need to describe their photos, and the other student needs to record information about those photos in a Venn diagram. But no one can see all 3 things at once. Okay, so the person writing the Venn diagram, they can't see both photos. And each student with their photo, they can only see their own photo. They can't see the other photo. So students need to describe in lots of detail, ask lots of questions. Okay, and I think this is a great way, again, to get students to speak. And it's also a nice way to get students to ask questions and practice taking notes or practice summarizing in English. So a nice way to get students to include listening, speaking, and writing all in the one activity. All right, so we're going to do this together. I'm going to be the student taking the notes, and you all are going to be describing photos. But I'm going to put you into 2 groups. So could you all pick a number, either 1 or 2, and just type the number in the box? Great. So Francisca, Indy, Kitty's number 1. Great. Dora's 2. Emir's 2. Jenny's 2. Andrew's 2. Great. Robinson is 1. That's fantastic. Okay. And what I'm going to need you to do is get ready to take a screenshot. So I'm going to show you all, or show half of you, a photo, and I'll get you to take a screenshot of the photo, and then I'll get you to look away or close your eyes, and I'll get everyone else to join us and take a photo of that. Yeah, so get your camera ready. If you've got a phone and you're doing this on your laptop, you can take a photo here, or you can screenshot on your computer. Okay, so everyone, look away from your screen. Don't look. All right, close your eyes. And if you're a number 1, look at the camera now. If you're a number 1, you can open your eyes if you're number 1 and take a photo of this. So number 1s, that's your photo. Take a picture of this. Okay, hopefully you got that. So number 1s now, close your eyes or look away. Thanks, Kitty. And number 2s, open your eyes. Number 2s, this is your photo. Can you take a screenshot of this or take a photo of that on your phone, please? Okay, so hopefully everyone now has a picture. All right, so now everyone, you can open your eyes, safe to look. What I'd like you to do next is describe your photo. You can use a single word if you like, and just tell me your number first. So you might type in number 1, forest, okay? Or number 2, great. So number 1, you've got a frog there. Great, there's a frog. Thanks, Kitty. That's great. So yeah, keep telling me what you have. Okay, so number 1, we've got a frog, but 2, we've also got a frog. So we'll put frog in the middle here. Okay, number 1, you've got a green frog. All right. Okay, so 2, we've got the frog is leaping. Okay, a leaping frog. Great. And number 1 has water drops. Does number 2 have water drops? Can anyone tell me, does number 2 have water drops? Okay, number 1 is in nature. How about number 2? Is number 2 in nature as well? All right, and number 1, you've got the frog is in a tree. What about number 2? Is your frog also in a tree in number 2? I know your frog is, you've said it's leaping, maybe it's also flying. Someone put your frog. And number 1, your frog is green. Okay, number 1, you've got orange feet. That's great. O-R-A-N-G-E, feet. That's great. And number 1, your frog is sitting. So that's different from number 2. Number 1, you've got red eyes on your frog. Are both of these, I think you've said both of these are in nature. N-A-T-U-R-E. Okay, number 1, it's raining. And number 2, it's, I guess it's dry, is it? Let's see, dry. Leaping, flying, yes, we've got 2. We've got leaping, flying frog in number 2. We've said it's dry, it's alive. Great, number 2, that the frog has got black eyes. Thank you very much, Donna. Black eyes on our frog. Okay, Kitty's frog in number 1 is under a leaf. Fantastic, thank you, Kitty. And number 2, we've said it's leaping. Okay, number 2, your frog is quite skinny. How about number 1? Is your frog skinny as well, or is it fat? Or is it normal size? Number 1s, is your frog skinny or fat? Normal size. Okay, so we'll write one. This is skinny or a thin frog. And number 1, it's normal weight. Healthy. Doesn't need to. Number 2, your one is athletic. That's great. Athletic. All right, so we've got this huge Venn diagram now of all this information about these 2 frogs. Now, if we were doing this for real in class, we'd probably stop at this point, and then we would look at the 2 pictures. So what I'm going to do next is show you the 2 images. There we go. Those are the 2 frogs. And we can compare what some of the differences are. I think we got a lot of these things correct, didn't we? We got the water in number 1, the red eyes for that frog, and the black eyes for the other frog. Maybe we didn't get that the frog on the right has got, picture number 2, has got big feet. Yeah, the frog, the second frog is more in action, isn't it? And the first frog is sitting. So I think it's a really nice way to get students to describe photos, and then after describing, they can compare, was there anything they got wrong? Okay, something I really like doing with students is getting them to find out their own mistakes or their own errors, and then noticing how they could do it better next time. Okay, so that was the Venn diagram, or the blind Venn diagram. So just to reflect on that for a minute, with this, I think you can do lots of different kinds of photos. As long as there's 1 or 2 things that are the same in the photos, then I think it's fine to use those. I think this activity also is probably better for slightly older students who need to be able to write in order to do this. And again, you could take photos from your course books, or you could take photos that you've taken yourself. Okay, so our next activity is called 5 sentences and 2 lies. So this is a little bit like the 3 truths and a lie that we did at the beginning of today. So for this activity, you need to find a photo with a lot of detail. So this one, I think, takes a bit more effort to find a really interesting photo with lots of things going on in the photo. And in class, what you need to do is get one student to cover up part of the photo and describe what's underneath, right? So imagine we've got a photo, the rest of the class can see most of the photo, and one student covers up part of it. They have to describe what's underneath their hand. but they have to include 1 or 2 lies. And then the rest of the students, they have to guess what's true and what's false. All right, so really very similar to doing the 3 truths and a lie, except instead of doing the 3 truths and a lie about ourselves, we're doing it about a photo. Okay, I think this is good for speaking, obviously. So one student's describing, the other students are listening, but it's also nice for creativity because students have to lie, and lying is a form of creativity, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to do an example together. I'm going to show you all a photo, and I'm going to read out some sentences about the photo. I want you to just guess which of these sentences are true. Okay, so here's a photo from an image taken from our world. You can see that part of it's covered up, and I'm going to tell you some sentences about the covered up part of the photo. Guess which of these is not true. So the first one is, a man is flying. Okay, that's the first sentence. Second, there's a long stick. That's the second sentence. The third one, there's a boat on the water. That's number 3. Number 4, the fish is jumping out of the water. And the last one, the man is wearing red shorts. So we got 5 sentences here. Can you guess which of these are lies? There are 2 lies here. Guess which numbers are lies. Okay, great. So Amir thinks number 1, there's no flying man and there's no red shorts. Billy agrees, no flying man. Francesca thinks number 4, there's no fish jumping out of the water and there's no man flying. Great. Pimpicha says number 5 as well, no red shorts. I notice Roselle said number 3 as well, there's no boat on the water. Jenny Wong thinks number 4 as well might be a lie. The fish is jumping out of the water, thinks that's a lie. And Lily Ni thinks number 3 and 4, there's no boat and there's no fish jumping out of the water. Okay, let's take a look. Here is the answer. Okay, so there's the original picture. Great photo. So you can see here that number 3 and number 4 are lies. Yeah, so there's no boat on the water and there's no fish jumping out of the water. So yes, I know some of you maybe are already familiar with this picture, but if you can find a photo that your students don't know, then this is a great way to get them to practice language. Also, a nice way of differentiating, right? You can get your higher level students to take on the speaking role that I had there, and you can get the lower level students to take on the listening role or the guessing role of which one is a lie, right? You can also give students a little bit of time to prepare for this. All right, so next, I'm going to ask you all to do this. So again, if you're a number 1 and a number ones and number 2s, I'll ask you again to sometimes look at the screen, sometimes not look at the screen. So I'm going to show you all a picture. Number 1s, you are going to describe the picture, right? Number 1s describe, and number 1s, you can just write 2 sentences. Let's just do that and include 1 truth and 1 lie. And number 2s, you will have to guess. All right, so number 2s, close your eyes. Number 2s, look away from the screen. Number 1s, take a photo of this. Okay, number 1s, that's your photo. Number 2s, close your eyes. So number 1s, get a photo of that. Okay, you've got that. And everyone can look at the screen again. Number 1s, can you type 2 sentences? Write 2 sentences about the photo. Make one of them true and make one of them a lie. And everyone else, you can read those sentences and guess which are true and which are false. Okay, so number 2s, get ready to read. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got the first sentence. A man is wearing a gold hat. Do you think that's true or not? Kitty has a gold hat and wearing a mask. Okay, Yumi says this person's wearing a crown. Okay, so Junjun thinks it's true he's wearing a mask. Great. Junko says he's wearing a scary mask. Andrew says the person has no head. Do you think that's true or false? We've got a man holding a flag. There's a number on his outfit. That's a great one. So pick a sentence and copy and paste, and you can reply and tell us, is the sentence true or false? So number 2's, read the sentences, tell us, are they true or false? Great. So Billy thinks that Andrew is lying about the no head. Thanks, Billy. What about the man is holding a flag? Do you think Kitty's telling the truth about that, or is she lying? And what about Indy says there's a number on his outfit? Do you think that's true? Okay, so Billy thinks it's true that the man has a silver belt. That's great. Anyone else? Pick a sentence and tell us, do you think it's true or false? Great. Papicha says, true, the man is wearing a scary mask, but you think the lie is the man is holding a flag. Great. And Jella Jane says, the woman is wearing a crown. That's a lie. And Jim Jim says the man's holding a flag. That's a lie. Glenn says the man is wearing a mask. That's false. Okay, so I've kept you waiting long enough. Here is the original photo. Okay, so we can see what were some things that were true. He's got not a silver belt, but he's got a gold belt. All right, we can also see there was a number attached to him, number 98. He does have a gold hat on, maybe not a crown, but a gold hat. I say he, don't know if it's he or she. There is a mask, and is this a flag? I'm not sure if it's a flag. It might be a flag. It's kind of hard to say, isn't it? But he definitely has a head. So well done if you got some of those right. So you can see there at this activity, nice way to get students being creative. So just to reflect on that for a minute, skills practiced, we said speaking, listening, obviously a good way for differentiating, right? You can get the stronger students to do the speaking and maybe less strong students in your class to do the listening. You could also turn this for lower level students into just a listening activity like we did at the beginning. So a way to adapt it perhaps is for the teacher to do what I did, read the sentences and the students can guess. And again, I think it's a good example of an activity that gets students describing photos, but everyone in the class is involved and has to listen. And for suitable images about this, again, I think if you look in your course books, or really just if you find anything online that you think has got an interesting or unpredictable, unusual part of a photo, then those are ideal. So Jenny says, do students need to make the sentences or just read? So I think that's up to you. So again, I did it to you today where you read and heard the sentences. Obviously that took a little bit more preparation from me. You could do it like I did it, where students are reading and listening. You could just get the students to listen and guess, or you could get the students to do this in groups themselves. So I think it depends on the age and the level of the students, but I think ideally you want the students to be the ones doing the describing and doing the talking. That's our topic today after all, right? Is using photos to get students talking. So hopefully you enjoyed that one. 2 activities left. So let's look at the next one. I call this one matching photo pairs. All right, so this one, we're going to get you to describe lots of images. So what you need to do is get a set of photos. So it could be any photos really, and just put those photos in 2 different sheets, 2 different bits of paper, but in different orders. Okay, so you've got version A and version B of a sheet. Version A has got the photos in one order. Version B has got the photos in another order. In class, students need to describe their photos and decide which photos are the same. Okay, so maybe this student here says, oh, I've got my picture number 1 is an elephant with a man on the back. And the other student might say, oh, my picture D, I think is the same as yours. So they know that 1 equals D. Okay, so nice way to get students to describe lots of photos. Obviously, you can make this more difficult by having more similar photos, or make it easier by having more different photos. Okay, and the outcomes, again, lots of describing, lots of speaking, lots of listening. Unlike our other activities today, where students are really focusing on kind of small details within one photo, this does the opposite, gets students to focus on big overall descriptions of a large number of photos. Okay, so we're going to do this again in groups. So for the second last time today, I'm going to ask you again to close your eyes and look away and get ready to take a photo or take a screenshot. So everyone, please do what Kitty's doing. Close your eyes, look away from the screen. And if you're a number 1, open your eyes, take a photo of this or take a screenshot. Number 1s, these are your 4 photos. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Get a photo of that. Great. Hopefully you got those. Okay, number 1s, now you can close your eyes again. Thank you, Kitty. And number 2s, open your eyes. Number 2s, these are your photos. Take a picture of those and get ready to describe those. Okay, so hopefully now everyone has a set of photos. You can all open your eyes again. Thanks, Kitty. Well, what I need you to do now is type in the chat box a very quick description of each photo. Include the number before the photo. So for example, you might say for number 3, right, you might write 3, and then there's a baby elephant drinking water. But make sure you include the number or the letter of the photo and the description. Okay, then you need to read the other descriptions and then match them. Okay, so for example, if you think picture number 2 and picture D are the same, then you can write 2D. Okay, so go ahead, start typing. Great, we've got already some examples. So we've got number 4 from Indy is there's a tornado looming. Number 2 is a big whale. Number 1, a man touching a whale. Sammy says number 1, a man is in the ocean. Okay, so Jim already thinks that 3 and C are the same. Fantastic, well done. Glenn says number 2, lightning and a volcano erupting. Great, Kitty also has that for number 2. We've got number 4, a storm is happening. Great. Anyone else want to remember? Okay, great. We've got number 2 and A are the same. Okay, so Pimpicha says there's clouds, big clouds or a storm along with a car on the road. So that's A. Which of those do you think matches with A? So Kitty thinks that 4 and A are the same. Fantastic. What about which one matches with number 1? So Robert says a person scuba diving with a whale. Which do you think that goes with? A, B, C, or D? So remember, if you're in group 2, you should include a letter before your description, right? Not a number. Anyone want to match more of these? So remember, write your description and tell us what letter or what number it is. So Kitty thinks 4 and A are the same. Anyone else want to guess which of these match with each other? We had number 2, a volcano erupting. Number 2, also scary lightning. Okay, so Jim thinks that 2 and D are the same. Robert thinks that 1 and B are the same. Oh, great. So Osel says for group 2, we've got A is a big tornado. B is a diver touching a big fish. C is a diver with a whale, very similar. And D is lightning, fantastic. And Jenny has A is a huge cyclone, great kind of storm in the sky with a car on the road. B, a man touching a whale. C, a man touching a whale's fin, great, very specific there. And D, a huge storm with lightning. Great, so Francisca agrees with Robert that 1 and B are the same. Pimpicha says that C is the man trying to touch the whale's fin in the ocean. All right, and we've got some answers. Kitty thinks 1 and B are the same, 2 and D are the same, 3 and C are the same, and 4 and A. Great, and Albie also thinks 1 is the same as B, 2 is D, 3 is C, and 4 is A. So you've got the same as Kitty. All right, let's take a look at the answers. So these are the answers. I actually tricked you a little bit, so we can see from this that 1 and B are the same. So the man touching the whale's head, those are the same. 2 and D are also the same. 3 and C are the same. The man reaching out to touch the whale's fin. Love that photo. And 4 and B are not actually quite the same. I tried to trick you here a little bit. So actually 4 and A are a little bit different. So I thought I'd try and catch you out with that one, but no one noticed the difference. So this is a part of this storm, and here's another part of the storm, but with a car. So pretty similar, but not exactly the same. Okay, so well done for all of you that guessed those, John, Kitty, and Albie. All right, so let's reflect on that for a minute. Skills practiced there. We had lots of speaking, lots of listening. Now, important to remember, I think for a lot of these activities that we're doing today, obviously you're typing because we're doing this online. So if any of you are teaching online, you can make these reading and writing activities instead of speaking and listening. But also if you're doing these face-to-face and you want to practice writing, you could get students in this activity to write for 5 minutes about the 4 photos and then swap descriptions with another group and try to match. All right, again, hopefully something that involves everyone. I like this activity because even after you finish typing, you still have something to do, right? After you finish speaking, you have to read what other people are writing, and then you also have to think, all right, and compare things. For differentiation, again, another one of those things where maybe if you have some stronger students in the class and some weaker students and you put them together, maybe that's fine, right? Because the stronger students can do a more thorough description than the weaker students. And the weaker students can practice doing some more listening or reading. And to adapt this, as I said earlier, to make it more difficult, you can include, of course, more photos. To make it more difficult, you can include more similar photos. So we could have, for example, had 4 photos all about whales. That would have been even more difficult for you there. Or to make it easier, we could have photos about completely different things. And of course, suitable images. Yeah, really, you could take these from your course book, or you could just go through your phone and find photos there. And if you're teaching really young children, of course, you could just get pictures of different animals, right? Or different whatever. Let's say your students are learning about food. We could just have one student has got, yeah, number 1 is a watermelon, number 2 is a hamburger, number 3 is a pizza. Right? It could be as simple as that. So I think this one you can adapt it for lots of different levels. Okay, so our last activity today is called Odd Photo Out. This is my favorite one. So this activity, instead of getting students to describe a photo, we're getting students to describe part of a photo. So you need to get an image and cut it into parts. Okay, so probably take one image and cut it into 3 parts. And also get a part of a different photo. All right, so you should have 3 bits of one photo and 1 piece of another photo. And then in class, give each bit to a different photo, and students have to describe their parts or what they're looking at, their photo, and then students guess which part is the odd one out. Okay, so everyone's looking at a different bit. We've got 3 parts from the one photo, but students don't know which, and they have to guess from the descriptions which one is the odd one out. And I think this is good, obviously, for describing, but it's also good for getting students to guess what's going on, some critical thinking, obviously, and inferencing and things like that as well. Okay, so earlier, for all our other activities, we had you in 2 groups. This time, we're going to put you into 4 groups. So pick a new number. You can pick 1, 2, 3, or 4 and type that in the chat. Thanks, Kitty. Thanks, Jenny. We've got some 3s, some 4s. Great, Amir's a number 2. That's fantastic. Can we get more 1s and 2s, please? I think everyone's chosen 3 or 4. Can we have some 1s and 2s as well, please? Great. Thank you, Princess and Ursula. Great. We've got a 3, a number 1, Johannes. Great. All right. So, and thank you, Iris, as well, number 2. Fantastic. All right. So again, I'll get you to close your eyes. When I say your number, open your eyes and take a photo of the screen. So everyone, please look away from the screen and close your eyes. Okay, number 1s, this is your photo. Take a picture of that. If you're number 1, open your eyes, take a picture of this. That's your photo. Give you a second to do that. All right, number 1s now, close your eyes, look away if you're number 1. And if you're a number 2, open your eyes. Number 2s, this is your picture. So number 2s, please take a photo of that. That's yours, number 2s. Okay, number 2s, close your eyes. And if you're a number 3, open your eyes. That's Kitty. Okay, number 3s, this is your photo. Take a picture of this. That's yours. All right, hopefully you all got that. Number 3s now, close your eyes again. And number 4s, open your eyes. This is your photo, number 4s. Take a picture of that. That's your photo, number 4s. Okay, and now everyone, you can open your eyes. Okay, so what I need you to do now is just in the chat, describe your photo and tell us which number you are. So type in your number, for example, number 1, a boy jumping, right? Or number 2, whatever that is, right? And describe your picture. And everyone else, you need to read the descriptions and guess which is the odd one out. Okay, so I'll give you a few seconds. Describe your photo, but make sure you include the number. All right, so Sammy has got number 1 is a boy skateboarding. Johannes is a boy jumping. Francesca has got number 3, a man is skateboarding. Remember, you can give more details. You can write more. Roselle says number 4 is a longboard. Number 3, we've got a man in black hat, black shirt, black pants, dancing on the street. Number 2, Andrew says, is a large building. Okay, Iris is number 2, a large white building with some cars outside. Got number 3, a man wearing a hat. Remember, you can add more details if you want, or you could ask someone else a question. Great, so Glenn's got lots of detail here. It says, a boy in purple trousers wearing a necktie, jumping in the air with blue sky. Very detailed, Glenn, love it. That's number 1. Jenny Wong says number 3, a girl wearing black and looks like she's about to dance. Okay, a bit of disagreement about if number 3 is a boy or a girl. Albie says number 3 is a man in black looking happy. Yumi thinks number 2 is the odd one out because there's no building in 1, 3, or 4. Number 4, Indy says an interesting artwork of a scary looking man. I think that's on a skateboard, someone said before. Number 3, a man at a carnival. Number 3, a man outdoor activity. Number 4, a beautifully painted longboard. Okay, so let's summarize. I think we said number 1 is a picture of a boy on a skateboard jumping with a blue sky behind him. Number 2 is a big white building. Number 3 is a man or maybe a woman outdoors looking happy, looking like they're dancing. And number 4, we said, is a board, like a skateboard with a picture on it. So which one do you think is the odd one out? So Indy thinks number 2. Roselle thinks number 2. Albie also thinks number 2. Okay, Pavicha, okay, you all think number 2. Okay, did I make this too easy? Let's find out. Let's look at the answer. So Kitty thinks 1 and 4 are related. So Kitty thinks it's either 2 or 3. Hedging your bets there, Kitty. Okay, this is photo number 1, was up here. That was photo number 1. This down here was the building in photo number 2. This part here was the photo in number 4. And this here was the photo in number 3. So actually, number 3 was the odd one out. Oh, wow. So well done to Kitty, was the only person who half guessed the answer right. Okay, so reflect on that for a minute. Obviously there, again, students can practice speaking and listening, but I think it's also good, this one, for getting students to ask each other questions. If we were doing this in class, I'm sure you guys would have said a lot more there. You might have asked some follow-up questions, maybe about the color of the sky and the different photos. A nice one to get everyone involved as well. It's also nice, I think this is the only activity we've done today in a bigger group. Okay, so I think that's also nice for differentiation. Maybe if you have one weaker student in a group, that's okay. The stronger students can maybe help them with their descriptions. And also nice for adapting. I think this activity, you can use lots of different kinds of photos. You just need to make sure there's lots of things going on in the photo, right? So you need to find an image where there's at least 3 different parts to it. So maybe it takes a little bit more of careful selection to find some suitable images. Okay, so let's review. We've got a couple of minutes left. So review the different activities that we looked at today. We started off, of course, with Spot the Difference, where you were describing different objects, or I was describing and you were guessing the objects and you had to notice what was different. After that, oh, sorry, at the end there, we did the odd photo out, where you were describing, speculating what's going on in the image and guessing which photo didn't belong. We had the blind Venn diagram where 2 students, that was you all, were describing 2 photos, and I was the other student writing, taking notes, comparing the 2 images. We also had 5 sentences and 2 lies where you were listening to my description of a hidden part of a photo, and you had to guess when I was telling the truth and when I was lying. And we also had those matching photo pairs where you described 4 images and you had to figure out which ones matched. And I think that's a nice way to get students to practice fluency. Okay, so very quick summary. Hopefully today we had some different activities that showed that photos can be a fun way to get students to communicate. Great for information gap activities. That's really what all of these were today. And a great way, I think, to get students to collaborate. None of our activities today really had a winner and a loser as such, but getting students to work together to achieve a goal. So maybe you can give us some quick feedback now in the last couple of seconds. So question A, you can tell us from 1 is no to 5 is definitely yes. And I guess 3 is in between. How confident now? Are you more confident about using photos in class to get students talking? Great, mostly 5s, 1 or 2 4s. That's awesome. B, which activity from today are you most excited about trying with your students? Which of those 5 activities are you looking forward to doing the most with the students in your class? You can ask that or tell us that. All, says Indy. And does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? Okay, Jim liked the last one, the odd photo out. That's great. Sammy also says all of them. That's great. Okay, well, do let us know how those went. Great. Okay, so after today, check your email. In your email, you get the recording link. You get a certificate as well of attendance. So make sure that you check your email after today. And very important as well, we have more webinars coming up later this week on the 19th, or sorry, next week, I should say, on the 19th and the 20th. And if you have colleagues who'd enjoy this and missed out this morning, we're doing the same session again this evening. So tell them to come back. Back to you, Kitty. Thanks.
Thank you, Ross, so much for sharing all these great activities. I think we've all learned a lot, and I can see from our teachers' feedback here, we all feel they're very useful and can help make our classroom teaching more fun, more engaging, and more effective. Yeah, as Ross mentioned, and I saw some teachers just say, I missed the time. So there is still another repeated session this afternoon, 6 p.m. Singapore time. Check here you can see on the screen, our Asia webinar site. Then you can find that one and then you can register for that one. And also, as Ross mentioned, we have 2 more actually lots more than this 2, but we put 2 here. After this webinar, we still have Joanna Freer and also Gisela, who's based in Japan, and our trainer Julie, who's based in Korea. So there will be 2 young learner webinars next week, and hope you can join, and we'll see you again. All right. I don't see any questions in the Q&A, so I think, and I don't
There was one
questions.
actually, Kitty, maybe because I think it was Robert asked a good question about what happens if students don't have enough vocabulary for some of these activities. So just 2 quick comments on that if we've got time. So first one is, of course, you could just write some vocabulary on the board that's going to be useful for describing the pictures. And the second one is, I think a lot of the most effective teaching happens when the students ask us questions. So for example, if the students want to lie about the photo and you've given them some time to prepare, they might put their hand up and say, excuse me, teacher, can you tell me, how do you say blah, blah, blah in English? And I think if you can do that, then students will be able to hopefully learn some new vocabulary while taking part in the activity.
Great. Thank you, Ross. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. And we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Kitty. And thanks, everyone, for participating so much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.